Hello, everyone. I'm Taylor Mulholland, and welcome to the Spiritually Fucked podcast. Okay, why did I start a podcast? Well, I've tried everything else, and I'm feeling pretty lost in life right now, so I decided to start a podcast instead of going to therapy. I've actually been wanting to start a podcast probably ever since podcasting became a thing, and I am infamously known for starting literally everything until something works. And so here I am. So the name Spiritually Fucked, well, it actually came into my brain probably 3 years ago. And I think I was a little bit too shy at first to come out with a podcast named Spiritually Fucked. And I remember talking to my friend about it, and she was like, yeah, that's kind of aggressive. And then recently, I just have been really thinking about it, and I put podcasting on my vision board. And I thought, you know what? I am an aggressive person. So I figured what a gift it is to name it Spiritually Fucked. And why is it named that? Well, it seems that it's very relevant in my life right now and in my friends' lives because we chit chat about it all the time, about how the spiritual community has this ick. There's just this ick out there with the fake healing, the toxic positivity, the spiritually bypassing your emotions. And we're just like, we're done with it. Because in my eyes, and the mission behind this podcast is spirituality, the word spiritual, it's just living in the heart. So, and I know my mission on this earth, I won't get onto it, but for the mission, at least for this podcast, is if I can make you laugh, or the stories can resonate, or even get you in your heart from a little poetry, then my job is done. I really believe you can just look out there. There's a lot of division happening in this world right now, and everyone and their egos just wants to say everything's wrong and throw their own opinions at each other, and it's just bringing us apart. And what brings us together is art, and I think comedy is a really great sense of art, poetry, even paintings, music, all of it. It brings us together, and it brings us back into our hearts. And so that's why I'm here. So if I can make you laugh, or if there's someone on here who tells a story that you resonate with, or if something I say resonates with you, then I've done my job, and that's my gift. So here you go. Here's my gift. Welcome to the podcast. So I wrote a bunch of notes on how this is going to go and how I want it to go. And to be honest, have them sitting right in front of me. And I don't know if they're going to help, because it seems like you think you know how it's going to turn out. And then as soon as you press record, I ramble. And that is just who I am. So if you're tuning in from YouTube, I know the setup is half-assed, but it's full heart, okay? It's all of me. I'm authentic. I use authentic intelligence. It's the original form of AI. I'll probably cut that part out because it's stupid, but anyways, I want to tell you about my story because this is my podcast. And if you don't know who I am, I'm just a little girl, and I have grown up to be 29, and I am still that little girl. And yeah, so I'm feeling a little lost in life right now. And I think that's great. I think it's great because I'm going through this season. It may or may not be my Saturn return. I just turned 29, and it feels like everything I've known about myself is just like hitting me in the face. And I am like, what is this? Does everyone go through this at 29? It's been such a gift because this confusion and uncertainty has brought me only back to myself, because again, I have more podcasts. I'll explain this more in depth about what this year has brought. But because I want to keep this just in who I am, but who I am at the time, I'm a lot of things, okay? I have a lot of things that I do. So when people ask, what do I do? Well, my friends are probably laughing right now because it's literally a suitcase of things. So right now in my life, I'm 29. I live at home with my mommy. She's my roommate. No, I live at home with my mommy, and we're in Boulder, Colorado. So we moved here in 2022, which has been 3 years now, and we kind of just decided to get up and move as a family. So it was me and my two brothers and my cousin. We said, yeah, sure, bye Arizona. I was pretty resistant with it at first, and I thought, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. So let's go. So I pretty much was like, goodbye, Arizona, farewell. I'm never coming back. I'm going to be a Boulder girl, blah, blah, blah. So I moved, which is such a funny joke now. I moved in 2022 in spring, and then I spent the entire summer here. I got a job and I was swimming in the creek every day. This is when I started doing Joe Dispenza's work and Kim Anami's work, and I was just like, oh my God, I can create my own life. And I totally was like a surrender experiment where I just focused on me. And then my Arizona life called, and I started to go back to Arizona a lot because I had a dog sitting biz, and my clients were like, Taylor, we need you. Our dogs need you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go back because I miss my friends, and I do miss the dogs and the lifestyle I had. So I started going back, and then I was like, people were like, where do you live? And I'm like, I don't know. I live half in Arizona, half in Boulder. And so I started just going back and forth all the time. And I was fucking living the life, man. I was staying in these nice houses. I was driving Range Rovers and Porsches and just like all these nice cars. And I was like, wow, I manifested this. Like, I created this life where I'm living lux and I'm getting paid to live and have all this freedom. And for about a year, I was like high as a kite, traveling a bunch. It was all amazing. And then just as you evolve and grow up, you start to grow out of things. And so at the end of 2023 was the best year, like literally the best year. And at the end of 2023, I was kind of like, okay, the traveling, living in a suitcase, hopping from house to house is getting a little tiring. But I just kept doing it because it was familiar, it was easy, and I really wasn't listening to my soul pull. And my soul pull was kind of just to build more stability and settle down somewhere. But I didn't know where the fuck I wanted to live, so I just kept doing it. So I took it into 2024, and then 2024, my body started talking to me. And that's when you know you're not listening to your soul, is when your body is literally like, bitch, I'm in pain. Ouch. Like, stop what you're doing in life. Like, we need a soul revision. And I just kept going. And I got really sick in the beginning of 2024, like vitality sick. I wasn't like, oh, I got the flu, but like my vitality started downgrading a lot, and it was because I was doing these things that were making that vitality go lower. And but again, my body was like just telling me to stop, like nourish yourself and relax and stop traveling so much, because the airplane travel and then the hopping from house to house, it was just so unstable. And I'm a Taurus, so I'm like, I need that grounding. Like, I think any human being needs grounding, and this life was working for me so well in 2023, and then in 2024 I was like, oh yikes, this is not working out so well, but it's what I know, so let's keep going. And then of course, when money's attached to it, it's so hard to make a change. And I just kept going. And then at the end of 20, I was escaping, okay? I was escaping, and I did a lot of combo in 2023, which is a plant medicine. It helps you detox and like purify yourself. And that was, why am I bringing this up? I don't know. Escape. Oh, I said escaping. Was I using that to escape? Maybe a little bit. I think I definitely was doing a lot of combo because I kept trying to strip layers of me that really didn't need to be stripping. I just needed to ground and nourish myself. But anyways, okay, back to the story. So I did a lot of combo. I was trying to I just didn't feel settled. So I kept trying to get rid of things or like cleanse from myself that made me feel unsettled when I was the one who wasn't settled, when really like I needed to settle myself. And I think this is a whole nother topic that will be on, is using like plant medicines as an escape rather than integration, or um, when really like you don't need to be continually cleansing yourself. You need to be nourishing yourself and grounding yourself instead of like completely trying to strip everything away from you. But that will be on another. That's what's to look forward to, okay? So, not that I was using combo as an escape, but I definitely was using things in my life to make me grounded. That's a perfect example, because combo is a very grounding medicine. So, I was taking all these external things outside of me and trying to ground myself, when in reality, I just needed to live in one place for more than 2 weeks. So, I went through 2024, and then I was like, I need to stay home. I need to stay home. I need to stop dog sitting. And then I was like, I want to go to Europe. So I fucking went to Europe for a month, and that was amazing. And that was a whole freedom in itself. But I got home, and throughout all this journey, I had my poetry book that was just like, I kept sweeping it under the rug. I was writing a ton, but it wasn't going anywhere. Like I have a document in my computer with 1,000 pages of writings and poetry and just like stuff, and I just kept writing in it, and then I would like throw it to the side, and I was like, I'm gonna do this poetry book, but I never created the time for it. It's not that I didn't have the time, it's that I never created the time for it, which is a whole thing in itself. So I went to Europe, and then I came back, and I was like, okay, it's time to settle down. And then my Arizona life, it keeps calling. Your life will not make a change until you make a change. And I was not making that change. And I had a trip booked. It was to go to my high school reunion and then dog sit for 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, this is it. When I do this trip, I'm done and I'm staying home. Well, when you don't listen to your soul pull, that's when your body starts to talk. And 2 days before my trip, I fucking blow my back out. At 28, I slipped a disc. That's how unstable I was in my life. My body literally was screaming at me saying, Taylor, you need to fucking sit down. You need to find some stability. You need to finish your book. And yes, I could blame it on the physical things and the physical aspects, but they always were a reflection of how I was facing it internally. I slipped a disc because literally my ass muscles were weak. That's what the doctor told me. They said, your ass is weak. You have no stability in your hips. You're hyper flexible. You need to stop doing yoga. And at the time I was using yoga to escape, and I just was so flexible, which was a reflection of me not having any boundaries in my life. And I had no stability and no structure in my sacrum because I was fucking bouncing around all over the place, and I fucking slipped a disc. And it was one of the most excruciating pains in my life. If you've ever done Sananga, that's an excruciating pain in itself. But I mean, between that and the broken hand, those two were the worst. And the broken hand injury has its own podcast in itself, because that's actually what made me start writing and taking my writing seriously. Again, when you don't listen to your soul pull, it shows up in your body. And at 28 years old, I fucking slipped a disc. And so if that's not a lesson in itself, you can't make that shit up. It's not a coincidence. And if you think it's a coincidence, then you know what? Good for you. I don't want to say you're wrong, because there's multiple truths, but just when your body's speaking, you want to listen to that. So guess what I did? Well, I first had a little complain fest and cried a bunch because I was in pain and I needed to get those emotions out. But then I sat down and I fucking finished my book. So it did its job. Life was saying, Taylor, you need to sit down and finish this book. And so it made me break my back, and I sat down and finished this book. And of course my higher self would pick that for me, or else I wouldn't have made a change. So I canceled the trip, and I was like so sad. I remember I was crying because I was like, oh, I'm going to miss hanging out with my friends. Boo. I'm going to miss my high school reunion. And then flash forward 4 months, and I have this like book I created because of that injury. And so you got to take what life gives you and you got to work with it. And that was the best blessing in my life. That unfortunately was the most painful thing, one of the most painful things. And I still have pain for it today, but the only time I have pain is when I'm not listening to my soul pull. So I had to stop doing yoga, which was a whole ego hit in itself because it was something I did every day. I had this huge yoga ego because I could do all these things, and then all of a sudden I couldn't, and I started having to do like butt exercises because I guess I had no ass. And so I really had to focus on that area. And I just learned that sacrum comes from the same root as sacred. And I thought that was really cool because it's like, obviously, my sacrum is sacred as fuck. And I wasn't treating it like it was sacred. And so it pulled and I slipped a disc. So you can call me a disc jockey. Okay, that was stupid. That might be cut out too. Okay, and then flash forward to, let's see, the beginning of 2024. I had my book, and then I started traveling a bunch again because when life calls, you got to go. And I had about a month and a half scheduled in Arizona to dog sit, and in 6 weeks, I moved 13 times. I packed my suitcase, I got up, and I moved houses 13 times. Just like imagine that. Of course my back's gonna fucking hurt. I was like scared shitless that I was gonna slip another disc. Like every time I was pulling that suitcase, I was like, oh no, it's gonna break. And I'm like, please, like I'm talking to my guides. I'm like, you guys, please just protect my back. I promise I'll stop after this trip. And I thankfully it didn't get too bad, but it was pretty bad. And then I got home, and then I was like, okay, I'm home. I'm in Boulder now, and I'm going to find a job and be stable. And then I was like, I went to Hawaii and like did all these other things. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop. Because my body was signaling me to stop. And so here I am. Oh, and then I launched my book in March, and my poetry book. And that was a big deal for Taylor because it was the vulnerable side of me. And I'm really proud of it. And I'm still like, it's so like vulnerable and like, it's not icky, but it's just like, it's my heart on my sleeve and it's out on the internet. And I'm still working with that part, but I'm really proud of it. And I'm really grateful that I have such great support system and friends that remind me how it's okay to be vulnerable and like share your shit. And now I'm doing it through a podcast, but the Spiritually Fucked podcast. So anyways, I did a little bit more dog sitting this past month in Arizona, and I love my Arizona life. I love my friends. And unfortunately, right now in my life, my heart is in two places. And so at 29 years old, I don't know where I want to live. I don't know. I know who I want to be. I see it very clearly. But I think for a long time I was blaming where I was locationally on where I was in my life. And I was like, well, I should be here and I should be there. And that's why I'm not here in my life right now and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, like it always boils down to you. It always does. And I fucking realized that. And I went through a whole spiral and I spiraled right back into myself. And here I am. So that's my story of where I'm at in my life right now, who I am as a person. I have a lot of shit up my sleeve. I did the yoga teacher training. I did combo facilitation. I did energy body work training. I'm a model and an actress. Like I've been doing that my whole life. When people ask who I am, like I really, as of right now in my life, I really am just like a theater kid. Like I love being a theater kid. I did shows growing up. I did, I think like 4 shows this past like 4 years, which literally was the time of my life. And that's another thing that brought me to Arizona because all my company was in Arizona. And so that was like another reason that I really just wanted to always be in Arizona because I could play with my friends and then I could play on stage. And when I come home from Colorado, I could write and be like, go inward. And so I just developed this back and forth life. But in reality, I think I am at a point where I do want to create some stability. And I'm still trying to figure out where that is. But that's who I am. I'm just a silly little theater girl. And welcome to the podcast. I really, really appreciate you being here. I'm going to check my notes to see if there's anything else that I need to talk about. Okay, I'll end you with this. One of my favorite quotes, and this is something I live by, is we're all here to walk each other home. That's what I believe. And I had this realization at 2 a.m. when most of my writing happens, is that we have to walk ourselves home first. And we can't tell anyone else how to walk. And how we do that is through our stories and sharing our stories. And there's nothing I love more than sitting down with someone and just listening to them and listening to how they live their life. And if I'm going through something, I just want to hear their experience in it. And that is my point of being here, is to not only share my story, but bring on people to share their stories, because I believe that's how we walk each other home. And with the spiritual ick out there, everyone wants to charge an arm and a leg for telling you how to fix your life, or telling you how to heal, or telling you what you're doing is wrong. And at the end of the day, no one can tell you that but yourself. And so that's the point. There is no fixing here. I'm not going to fix you, but I'm going to feel you. And maybe you're going to feel me too. That's what she said. If you're wondering who this podcast is for, it's for the conscious souls out there who are just sick of the spiritual ick and just want to be silly. They want to bridge the sacred and the silly and go back to what it is to live and be a human and just live from your heart. Okay? That is my goal. That is why I'm here. And that is why I started this podcast. And if you want to stick around for that, I would love for you to stick around for that. So, with my full heart, thank you so much for being here. This is the Spiritually Fucked podcast, and I am Taylor Mulholland.